Hi, my name is Alyssa Fountain. My major is actuarial science, and I'm going to be talking about macros today. Enjoy! Okay, so what a macro is, it's like a shortcut on an Excel sheet. So if you do something lengthy or with steps, you just use a macro to do it automatically. So we're going to open up our Excel file that we want to use. Whenever this pops up, it's going to pop up anytime you have a file with a macro, you're going to hit Enable Macros. And for Windows, you're going to hit that again up here. So we're going to do two macros, one that copies all of this and moves it down, and one that rotates everything. So whenever you do a macro, you want to make sure that you have a copy of the original data, which is down here. And the way you do that is you right click, you hit move or copy. You can move it wherever and hit create a copy. And it should create a copy. Mine's already set up. And you want to make sure it saves as well, because sometimes macro doesn't save. If it doesn't save, you could try changing the file name, or you can briefly change the file format before changing it back to the macro-enabled workbook. So the first macro we're going to do is copying all of this and putting it down here as sort of a reset function for whenever we do changes to this data. So what you want to do is you want to go to View, Record Macro, and then you create a name. We're going to use the name Reset. And then you use a shortcut key, which is the keys you press to run the macro after it's been completed. I'm going to use Control-Shift-K, and then you hit OK.
And now everything that's being done that you do in this Excel sheet or on any other piece of the file is being recorded by this macro. So make sure that if you do anything wrong, you restart recording. So we're going to highlight all of this. You can either use your mouse or you can use the Shift arrow keys. I prefer the mouse. And then you're going to go to Home, Copy, and you can see it's highlighted all of these cells. Then we're going to highlight these and hit Paste. There's different kinds of paste, but for this we only need to use just the generic standard paste. And then after that, you just hit Stop Recording. So now every time we change anything, we just move things around and we hit Control-Shift-K, it all resets back down.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate all of these yellow cells counterclockwise while moving all of the blue cells clockwise. So this macro is a little more difficult than the copy macro that we just did. There are many different ways that you can do it. My way is a little lengthy, so if you decided you wanted to do it a different way, you're welcome to do it. So again, we're going to go to Record Macro.
I'm going to call this one Rotate. And then I'm going to use the Shift-J key for my macro, so it changes to Control-Shift-J. Hit OK. So what we're going to do is we're going to move all of the yellow cells down away from the blue cells so that we can move the blue cells freely without worrying about messing up any of the data in the yellow. So the way that you do this is you just highlight the cells that you're going to use, go over the edges until you have a little glove feature, and then just drag and drop. And I'm going to keep mine in the same format so I don't forget how it works. And then the only two things you need to do for this are these insert and delete functions. So insert moves things to the right and down, and delete moves things the opposite, so left and up. And we're going to use that to our advantage. So first we're going to click this eye, and we're going to move cells to the right. And then we're going to delete cells, shifting them up. And you can see it already starting to go clockwise. And then we're going to delete cells, shifting left. And insert cells, shifting down. So that we've got this sort of framework. And obviously there's a little piece over here. We're just going to drag and drop it back into its little spot. In the same method we use to drag and drop these yellow. And then that's exactly what we're going to do back for this. We're going to drag and drop and drag it back to its frame. And then we're just going to do slightly the opposite of that. So in the same way that we inserted a cell on this top row, we're going to delete a cell, shifting cells to the left. And then we're going to shift cells up. We're going to insert and shift cells to the right. And we're going to insert and shift cells down.
The reason that you should hit these drop-down arrows every time is that sometimes it assumes that you want to go a direction that you didn't mean to go. So you want to make sure to use the drop-down so that you can ensure the direction that it goes. And then we're going to move the A back to where it was originally, and our macro should be complete. We're going to hit Stop Recording. And now every time we hit Control-Shift-J, as you can see, all of these move counterclockwise, while all of these move clockwise, which is exactly what we wanted to happen. So every time you hit Control-Shift-J, it moves more and more. And if we wanted to go back to the original data, we just hit Control-Shift-K again, and it resets all over again. So your macro is complete. You can use a macro for many different ways: copying, pasting, moving things. It's pretty useful for if you have a lot of data and it's kind of a lengthy process to do what you want to do. And then you want to make sure to save the page. to make sure that your macros are saved to the page. It might take a minute. Macros are a bit more hefty than other data. And then you're just complete. And then if you mess up the macro, you're going to go to View Macro, click which one you had, or click which one didn't work, and then you're going to hit the minus or delete key, and it's going to ask if you really want to delete it, and you're just going to hit OK, and then you have a fresh start. You also have a fresh start for when you run a macro, and it does a different effect than what you want it to do. So if I run our rotate macro, there's no undo key up here, so you can't undo a macro. So if you did something wrong that messed up the data, that's what you have the original data for. So if you mess up, you can use the original data and just create another copy for a fresh worksheet. So we're going to save it, and it's complete.